Welcome to the Star Trek Discovery After Show, which is not a fine thing to say because my guest today, by the way, I'm Christian Bladt as always. With me is the master, the admiral of new content, Flobo Boyce.
How's it going, Christian? How's life?
I'm doing great. Now, you just will get the plug right at the top of the show.
Yeah,
and,
okay.
We'll mention it a few times, but you also do a Star Trek Discovery discussion show.
Yeah, it's called Commander's
Thursdays.
Log.
Yeah.
Every Thursday night on YouTube, I get to sit there and ask people way smarter than I what they thought about the episode, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, and you had a couple people on this week. So who was with you?
Jake Giles, he's a hardcore fan, not only of the Star Trek novels and TV shows, but of Star Trek Online. So it's kind of cool to see his approach to canon and what's not canon, because there were some references in this episode I didn't even reference if I've not watched STO or played STO.
I don't even know what those letters stand for, so I wouldn't even know. So, and by the way, hi to some of our friends in the chat: Michael B, Craig Robinson. Great to see you there. Nikki's a little under the weather, so she is unfortunately not with us today. But Flobo, like a champ, you saw the bat signal or the Federation symbol up in the sky, right, and you answered the call. Always appreciated. So we're going to talk about 2 episodes because you may or may not have noticed we didn't do a show because of Thanksgiving last week. I know Flobo did, but we did not.
Who watched that episode, though?
I didn't get to watch it for a few days. I mean, it was a great episode. So we're going to talk about episodes 7 and 8. Episode 7 is Unification 3. And let's just start with overall thoughts from you on that episode, Flobo.
So I always say this every time I'm on the show. Discovery is my opening silo into Star Trek. It tripped me out that there was Unification Part 3. And I was like, wait, this season you already had another numbered episode. Where does Unification 3 come from? And we see that later on. We got a little bit of some holographic Spock, which is pretty cool to see.
We got to see a little bit from Unification 2, yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even know that existed until that. but the episode itself was pretty cool. I think it's the perfect idea of merging or having Navarre, even though I wish I would have seen the surface. That's something I was like hoping to see the surface of Navarre. Yeah. But other than that, it was a nice bottle episode, whole trial happening on the ship. It was great.
Yeah, there's not a lot of instances where I feel Star Trek Discovery cut some corners for budgetary reasons. But when you hold the trial on the ship, that's a bit of a red flag of like, yeah, we are not building Navarre, which, by the way, the planet is Vulcan. You have sets for that from this series. You don't even have to borrow Vulcan sets. You don't have to sign them out from Picard. I mean, we had Vulcan sets in earlier seasons, from sequences from when Michael was a kid and all that. But so it was a little bit disappointing, but it's not the sort of thing that in any way took away from my enjoyment of the episode. It was just more like I thought that the I was going to say human drama, but the character drama was so great, and I thought well handled in those situations, during the trial and all that. I think it was great. I just thought it would have been cool if they had beamed down. So I'm 100% with you. And Michael says episode 8 was a filler. I wasn't really feeling it. 7 he liked. I enjoyed both of these episodes. We'll talk about 8 in a moment. But this one, I think it was very significant in the sense that it did give us Vulcans. It gave us Romulans. The idea that, in nearly 1,000 years from the original series, I think we've established about 800 or so years from the end of Picard, it would make sense that unification would take that long. And the clip from Spock from The Next Generation, he basically says it'll take, I think he says decades or centuries. He knew that it was going to take a long time. And, the groundwork that we've laid from first the first J.J. Abrams film, the destruction of the Romulan homeworld, it stands to reason that the issue of reunification would come around at some point, and they were there with the Vulcans. What did you think about just sort of the realization of like Navarre, although as you used to know it, Vulcan?
Yeah. like I always thought the idea was something that would have happened. Maybe it was like a non-canon thing. Again, I'm only been a fan of the franchise for about 2 years, and so seeing these two paths almost like a helix, how the Rollins come together on some issues, they kind of go their separate ways, or like they wayward cousins, or kind of a thing. The idea of them being unified was really interesting to me, and we get to see that. And I won't jump ahead a bit. But we get to see that with our tribunal and who's on that tribunal and the values they stand for and stuff like that. But I really like the idea of how on the surface two people may look the same, or but how our characterizations of them, of these are the lack of emotion people, these are the warlike people, how that has some color filled in over time. So it was a cool concept. I was on board from moment one.
Yeah, no. I think the sort of the germ of all of this is the fact that Burnham, I was going to say in the last episode, but I guess that's a little confusing. So in episode 6, gets access to the black box, and they're starting to pinpoint what happened with the burn, and the fact that it wasn't simultaneous. They're starting to triangulate a point of origin, which obviously we know there's an advancement of that in episode 8. But sure, this idea of finding out more about SB19. So I thought that it was well done in the sense of it gave them a reason to go to Navarre. Right. It wasn't, I thought it was very logical, to borrow a phrase, a term that is very important to the Vulcan people. I did. Yeah. Very logical that they would go there. And I thought that, apart from us not seeing it, I thought that it gave us a lot of insight as to, really what happened and sort of the falling out with the Federation. And I don't know, Saru seems to have made a very special friend in that episode. I liked just watching them walk and talk together,
Oh, yeah. I like the fact that Saru is kind of becoming his own captain. Yeah, of course, the series has always struggled with that seat, but Saru does offer the kind of compassion, I guess, that Discovery was missing at the helm. Not saying that Pike didn't have any. It was just kind of like Pike can turn it on if it needs to be, but Saru always tends to listen heart first, which is pretty cool to see.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I think it's interesting because you sort of see the parallels with some real life things in the terms of there's this contingent on Navarre that they need to believe that SB19 caused the burn. They don't want to pull at those strings because this is just the way of the life that we have led for ourselves. And when we do get to the tribunal, we see that. I think that the president of, I believe her title was president of Navarre, was very understanding. And I do, clearly there was somewhere in a temple there was reference to the fact that Spock had a sister. That is supposed to be one of those things that
don't worry about it.
Nobody knew about. But they're like, it would have derailed the episode if they needed her to prove it. So I'm okay. I'm willing to allow it because it's just like, you only have time to tell this story. Let's not get bogged down in that. And just how important he was that, people who, now I'm going to get the timeline wrong, but somewhere, some 800 years after, 800 years after Spock would have died, just learn to, they still know who he is because of how important he was.
True.
This half human who was a member of the Federation. I think I think that they handled it really well, and the reverence they have for him, I thought was good. And the way that it was conveyed that they were uneasy meeting with the Federation, I thought made perfect sense for the reason it was given. I thought that the president was guarded, but when we meet the tribunal, though, there's the main guy's definitely the bit of the hard ass there, but the other two kind of just deferred to him. I mean, when it started.
I totally agree with you, but even before that, I know you think about Spock and the needs and the many outweigh the needs of the few, and it's such a cool or interesting wrinkle that it didn't matter that Burnham was part of the Federation. In fact, that could have been to her detriment because they are on bad terms with the Federation. But that still gets her to pass in there, at least to talk to the president at the time because she is Spock's sister. But even then, she gets turned away, and Burnham in pure Burnham fashion, gotta take choice out of people's hands by invoking Tikal and Ket. I was like, damn,
Yeah.
you were always getting yourself into trouble, Burnham. What are you
Which
doing?
I thought was great because after multiple episodes where she borders on a diplomatic incident that the admiral has to deal with, uh, without checking with anyone, she just blurts it out as like, "Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and to call in Ket." I want to make sure I got it right because I don't.
Yeah.
By the way, I hope that Flobo hasn't just invoked it and now we have to have a tribunal. I'm not ready to make my
I
case.
gave you no choice.
Oh my god! All right. But in any case, yeah. So I thought that you could just tell what she's like. So do you guys still follow the old ways? She's like, yeah. She's like, great. She's like, I know exactly what I'm going to do. And I thought
I saw that. I was like, man, Burnham haters are going to have a field day with that. They're going to be like, look. Yeah.
By the way, I really like the way her character has evolved this season. I mean, there's the huge physical difference that, for her hair. But I mean, right. I think that that's important because of how different her character was from that 1 year that she was away from Starfleet. And the fact that that 1 year was spent 930 years in the future.
Yeah, how do you show maturity for an adult character that's been asked to have lack of emotion? I mean, that's the thing that makes it great, because the first season, it really was that Vulcan upbringing. But if you've seen the worst of it, not to say this is child's play, but you kind of have this base experience in this time period where no one else around you does. Even the Federation, who are here in this time with everyone, are kind of in their own bubble. So in some way, Burnham is leader, which is why she should be out in the forefront. But those chat rooms and Facebook groups, they just can't stand it.
Yeah, no, and it's funny. I literally earlier this week I saw somebody on, I think it was on Twitter, talk about how the Star Wars fan community is the most toxic, and I'm like, oh, you must not be a fan of Star Trek or Doctor Who because. Right. I mean, look, you have a contingent of fans for all three of those that I talked about that balk at the idea of female protagonists in the recent content of all of those, this show in terms of Star Trek. But you have the overwhelming majority that understand, of course, like, well, this is exactly what Gene Roddenberry's vision was, right. That, I mean, the idea that his idea was that by the time of the Next Generation, things would be a little bit more gender neutral. I mean, not literally, but to the extent that, they wouldn't even be considerations. But I think it made it difficult to tell a 1 hour episodic drama when you don't have, there wasn't going to be any conflict. It was going to be a little bit more gender neutral. I mean, that's why the uniforms looked the way they did in the first season. Right. So, I think that it's great. And I find that I like her character more being a little bit less sure of herself. I mean, I would like a week where she just follows orders and nobody gets in trouble, which essentially was the second episode. But, she was definitely a little bit rogue at times. But you'd think she would learn,
You would think so. But even then, we get ourselves into one of these tribunal things. Sorry, I got totally off the rails. But, your first question, your original question was right. I was a little interested to see how they were going to split up the tribunal, because again, my knowledge was kind of like, hey, Vulcans, they have the lacrimotion, but they're good people, and Romulans could be warlike. But it almost seemed like the opposite. It seemed like the emotionless Vulcan was the bad guy, right? Center punch. The person that was both was like almost like a moderate. Is that a accurate term in this case?
No, I think you had sort of the two factions. You had like the stern parent. You had the fun uncle, and then you had somebody in between, who was like, right. Well, it definitely was a little bit more adjusted. Michael B says, I like Michael, not just because of the name. She gets shit done and doesn't wait, which can be a flaw, but it works for her. Yeah, I think in the time that she came up in Starfleet, I think that it was a lot more common. I think that people are a little bit more measured by the time of the Next Generation. I mean, obviously there are always exceptions, but I think she's definitely more of a product of her time. And I think I like really seeing that. And I think it's more endearing towards her as she struggles with these issues. And I thought that was such an important part of this episode. And I think that this being the revelation for where her mother had been could have gone poorly, because I was just like, wait, that's where she ended up. And but with absolute candor, I will have to admit that by the time the episode was over, I thought it worked out really well, because anybody else who had been appointed to, represent her in this matter wouldn't have known, like, you're not being honest with yourself. And I think the importance with which they got, Burnham to admit that, but at the same time realizing how important Starfleet is to her, just sort of trying to figure out a way to make it all work in her life, I thought made this episode so important. But what did you think of the reveal of here's where mom's been for the last 6 weeks?
I will have to be in the same boat as you are. It was, I hate using this word because it sounds like I have an MFA degree, but it's such a contrivance to have your mom on this planet in this role at this time. You know what I mean? But you're right. It served the purpose of the show. It made everything smaller, especially because we're physically in a smaller scope. Like, I don't know. I feel like I've watched Lower Decks. I'm not spoiling anything because it seems to be a common trope in Star Trek thing. There's always a trial episode, right? And trial episodes tend to be this giant, large tribunal. I'm a Green Lantern fan, as you can tell by my thing, Guardians of the Universe.
This whole
thing, But to see the trial so compact and claustrophobic, I think having her mom, be there to really squeeze Michael Burnham to the core in season 3. Because let's be honest with you, Christian. If I was a Vulcan, I was ruled by logic, and I know something's right or wrong, and I choose not to act on it. Is that not an emotional state? Is that restraint? You know what I mean? So the fact that you have Michael Burnham doing it, why not? And I thought it was pretty cool at the end as well.
And I thought that the tie-in was nice to Picard, that she was, from that same order of basically of nuns. I guess we'll figure out that they just, basically take a human woman in. But the Kawat Malat, which I probably said wrong, but that's kind of what it looks like. But yeah, well, that might be the case. So I thought, this is a great thought. Michael B., her mom reveal surprised me because I thought she was running the chain, the Emerald chain. That would have been a very cool reveal if she'd landed like 50 years earlier or something, and she'd just been running the whole thing. That would have been a cool reveal.
Human overseeing the alliance between the alliance.
I love it. I think that would have been a cool reveal too. I actually didn't see that coming, so I kind of wish your spoiler were accurate, and that's what we would find out. But that's not the case. So it was. I thought it really helped sort of where the story was. It managed to serve the needs of Burnham in terms of us as an audience, just seeing her evolution. And I thought it was a nice touch. And then it's like, all right, Mom, see you later. Missed you, but all right, now I know where you're here. Yeah, I mean, look, I'm sure we'll see her again.
Will we see Commander Non again, Lieutenant Non again? That's what I want to see.
I don't know. Let me check the Magic 8 Ball and see. I hope we see her. But I thought she was an interesting character. I thought so too. Yeah. Yeah, but I don't know for sure. If we're going to get that. So I mean, some of the things that advanced in this episode, we'll talk more about in the context of episode 8. It is important as Tilly starts to grapple with this idea of being the new number one, replacing Michael. I thought, temporarily. I have a feeling that it's a temporary designation, and at some point, maybe it will be before the end of the season. At some point, maybe early in next season, they're just gonna be like, I think this needs to be permanent. What are we really waiting for? What do you think about? Look, Tilly isn't going to immediately say like, yes, I'm going to go from cadet to number one of a Starfleet vessel. But what do you think about Saru's pick, and also the way that she's handled it?
They kind of wrote themselves into the corner, and I tried thinking about this. I'm not necessarily against Tilly being number one, but that is a giant jump to go from ensign to number one. And and to their credit, they listed out every reason why we had in our heads, hey, am I a yes woman? No, you will speak with your heart. It's kind of a jump. I didn't finish school. But don't worry about it. You're in the future. That's fine. Now, if I was right, if I had the magic pens, Christian, I would definitely have Vance assign Lieutenant Willa to be number one to have that conflict. But you can't complain with Tilly there. I
don't think we've seen Willa since that first episode that they met up with the Federation, by the way. I think we talked about it on this show. I can't remember if that was a week you were with us or not. But we expected that we were going to see her assigned to Discovery as just sort of somebody to kind of oversee everything and make sure that, they're not basically flying blindly,
Right.
almost 1,000 years into the future. There's a lot of things they need to take into consideration that they're not even aware of. But yeah, look, I like the pick, and I think that they did exactly what you said. They had to show us that they were aware of all the reasons why it might not be a good choice. And of course, the way to do that was to go right to Stamets, who, if anybody was going to give all the reasons why she isn't a good choice, it's him. But I think we've really seen that character soften a lot in terms of her and Adira, which we'll talk a lot about when we talk about episode 8 in a moment.
He
But
gave her Stamets face. That Stamets face.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, right. Exactly. And Craig, this is what I was thinking. Linus for number 1.
Oh,
absolutely.
what? He doesn't even know how to use the tricorder combination.
And he's shredding everywhere, all over the
combination combat.
And Tilly should be the permanent number 1. William Walton, you agree with me, so obviously you are very correct. And Craig's right. When Burnham was like, "Did I miss the say yes bit?" That was actually pretty funny.
Yeah, cut the cheese.
Michael B disagrees. No, not Linus. I think Linus is going to basically serve comic relief from here on in. I think that they've found a good niche for him, and you can tell in the writers' room where they what they like about Linus. It's just like
his own plush doll, probably.
Yeah. Oh my God! And what if it sheds? And he yeah. So I really enjoyed episode 7, and I thought when you deal with sort of the big foundations of Star Trek, obviously the Vulcans are important, just in terms of it existing as entertainment, just because obviously because Spock was always the standout character, but just in the history that they have, just the importance of first contact with the Vulcans. Obviously it's very important, and I don't know. I think that you're giving a very important message too about how, look, the Romulans and the Vulcans reunified. People can get back together, and not to get too heavy, but it gives you hope that maybe at some point the country could actually get all back together. You could instead of having a map of red states and blue states, you could have a big old purple map, and it would look like a Sam Jackson lightsaber. It'd just be one great big purple map, and maybe people would agree on things, but maybe not.
World peace is fake news.
Yeah, Michael has this question, and I saw it earlier. I don't have an answer, but was the SB-19 a failed star or jump gate program? It's a great question, but I don't think that they gave us enough information on it about what the program was. And I think that it would have helped if we knew a little bit more about what it was. But I guess it being top secret is sort of the way to kind of work around it. But yeah, I would like to know what it was they were trying to do and why they thought it might have caused the burn. There are things from episode 7 that I think are more prevalent in episode 8. So we'll talk about Adira. We'll talk about Georgiou, especially talk about Georgiou in relation to episode 8. I'm just trying to make sure I didn't forget anything. Anybody who in the chat wants to address something for episode 7, we can always circle back. But let's talk about The Sanctuary, directed by the real number 1 in our hearts, Jonathan Frakes. By
the way, for me, will always be the Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction guy. That's the first time I saw him in life. Was in that show.
Yeah, I know. There are so many memes from that show that the only that's who people know him as. I know. Yeah. So directed by Beyond Belief Fact or Fiction, Jonathan Frakes. This episode could have gone another way. It could have been a lot like the episode that led to Burnham being reprimanded, basically, and instead, because Book's like, I got a problem, I need your help. And she's like, okay, but I can't do this. I can't, she had just made peace of the idea of staying with the Federation, but also we can't accomplish this together. Let's try and see what Starfleet can do to help us. Yeah. So again, talking about the maturation, the evolution of Burnham, what did you think, Flobo, about the fact that she went right to the Admiral and was like, what can we do here?
Well, there's two different sides of growth there. One, that she instantly went with him. I mean, not to say she wouldn't do that with a lot of people, but I do feel like there's a different kind of urgency with her significant other. Can I say that now? Are they official, or are they just working things out?
Yeah, did he pin her? Is she wearing his jacket? I don't know. Like, are they going steady? I don't know where we're at. It's a great
Saw
question.
about the bleachers, Linus saw about the bleachers. But you're right. Yeah, definitely going to see Vance, and of course we got more like Vance being all aloof was definitely the right move, right? Because if it was another rogue mission, I think even I, a fan of Burn, would have rolled my eyes and say, look, we're only 8 episodes in. You can't repeat that beat too many times. How many times can you go rogue until someone says, why are we giving him authority? Put him in the break. So yeah, I'm glad they made this a little different than the top.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. I think that, obviously there were concerns about not having a diplomatic incident, which unfortunately, that may be exactly what happened.
Yeah.
But sending Discovery there to observe, I think it was logical. And again, logical. I think they and they did a decent job setting up the fact that they were going to be, she was going to be hard to contact, because she was in this sort of this protected zone. It was definitely a story point that was important to them. And when you tune in later tonight on the Mandalorian after show here on the Black Cast Network, you will find me very upset about a story point in the latest episode that didn't make any sense. For an amazing episode of that show, there's this one thing that's like, yeah, because you did this thing, it made all the other stuff difficult when it didn't need to be. And sometimes you just ask, yeah, but why did you leave that there? Why didn't you go and get it? But anyway,
I haven't seen the show, but this one looks polarizing.
Yeah, well, that show's great. This show's great. I've said many times the fact that I watched them both today this week, actually. So the fact that my Friday morning was filled with a brand new Star Trek show and a brand new Star Wars show, I don't need much else. Come on, except for getting to do a show where I talk to Flobo about it. And
yeah, exactly.
And you can see myself and our pal Rachel Goodman tonight at 9 Pacific. And yes, I know that's midnight Eastern, but come on, it's Friday. Stay up, talk Mandalorian with us.
Cartoons.
Back to start. Yeah, exactly. Back to Discovery. I think that it was good because look, Book was this character that very easily could have gone away, really after the second or third episode of the season. And I like that he's sticking around. I like that they're actually building, there's this romantic relationship between them, but it's also this kind of partnership where they're in this together. And just like you said, the willingness to help most people, but especially to help Book, whose name is apparently Cleveland Booker, by the way. Which I had to think for a second. I'm like, did they give him the same name as Cleveland from Family Guy? But his name was Cleveland Brown. So I thought for a second, I'm like, wait, is that Cleveland Booker?
The Cleveland Booker.
Yeah. So, but I love that his name's Cleveland. So
Tyrex, or his other name is, right?
Yeah. So that just means that that the city of Cleveland still rocks in the 31st century. So,
oh my God,
what was that a long way to go?
I remember that song, the Drew Carey show opening. Cleveland rocks.
Yeah. Exactly. So, I thought that we got some cool stuff in here. We finally got to see Osira, who runs the Emerald Chain. And I didn't recognize that actress. I thought the reveal was going to be somebody that, I know who that is. I'm like, I don't know who that is.
Is it just me, or did she look almost too normal? It was like a space Karen. I was like, really? That's the big bad this season? Okay.
Space Karen. Yeah. She's like, well, I'm not going to be wearing a mask here, okay?
Exactly. You dastardly fiend.
I did like how she dispatched her nephew from a couple episodes ago.
Yeah, Tolor. My bad.
Yeah,
sorry, homie.
Yeah, I know. I was like, oh, I didn't think we were going to see that guy again. Oh, okay. We're really not going to see him again.
Yeah.
But I thought that they wanted to let us know a little bit about her from that interaction. So so I agree that it was just like, okay, so she's just green or whatever. But I mean, I've heard tell it ain't easy being green. So
I have a good authority. It's not easy to be green.
Oh, wait a minute. This is just in. from Sesame Street News, Kermit the Frog says it is not easy being green.
Back to you.
Yeah, Craig Robinson is right there with us. Osira was not terribly menacing, was she? She's a good character actress, but I thought it was going to be someone more recognizable. Yeah, exactly. You know, I mean, I guess I don't know who, but yeah, there could have been somebody, and you could have gotten somebody from a past Star Trek, even. You know, that could have been fun, but whatever. So this threat of the Emerald Chain that it poses to Book's homeworld. What did you think about this episode in terms of finally getting to see a little bit more of what this threat is?
We see more of Booker's planet. No, I'm just kidding. I thought
yeah, we don't get to see Navarre. Yeah, look, that planet. This planet looked an awful lot like Toronto in the winter, so that's probably why.
Yeah, exactly.
Because Navarre / Vulcan was going to need to look like Phoenix, and they're like, "Well, we're shooting in Toronto, so we can't go down to the planet. Can we go to the snowy part of Vulcan? No, okay, then forget it."
Cutting those corners. No, I thought it was a cool episode because it does seem very classic. You know, it seems very TNG about this planet suffering from like something meteorological or nature being. It creeped me out. The sea locusts look like viruses. They look like the actual structure of a virus. But
yeah, I thought they were the coronavirus actually.
Yeah, it was kind of.
I'm like, wait a minute, Book and his brother can get rid of the coronavirus. This is great. They don't need to go get that vaccine.
We can only ask them. No. So it was a cool mystery, but the fact that everything's amped up with the Emerald Chain made it that much sweeter. And for a while they're going in, I was like, oh, will this be a filler episode? But I think there's enough character involvement here that I think I walked away satisfied.
Yeah, no. I thought, and I think that as it relates to representing the Federation, almost 1,000 years into their future. This is what I was alluding to earlier. You didn't have the representative from the present day Federation who could very well have tried to help you. I don't know that it was avoidable because the Emerald Chain's firing on the planet, so you have to do something to stop them. I did like the acting first officer Tilly's idea. Well, what if one of your pilots, used a non-Federation vessel and got a very stern talking to? I thought that it was a cool sequence with Detmer taking Book's ship, and I did also like Book looks up, he's like, "Is that my ship?"
Yeah, it was a Hail Mary, man, because if Detmer came out, got the yips, and died, whoops, you know what I mean? Yeah. But thankfully, Detmer rose to the occasion. I think she's getting her groove back, and it was kind of interesting to see Booker be like, "What? Well, that's the last time I parked my car in the backyard." You know what I mean? Like it was fun.
Yeah, it's like okay, so I don't leave the keys in the ignition. Clearly, that's what happened. But yeah, and look, I mean, earlier in the episode, Detmer had clearly put some fail-safes in place because she was starting to question her own abilities. But then this goes so far as like, I'm going manual, and she's like got the double joysticks, and it's
Han Solo.
They should be selling those for I don't know, PlayStation 5 or something.
That's what I'm saying. So seriously, those things look so like my time. They look so 21st century. I was like, wait, what? Give me an Oculus Rift. It was kind of cool.
Yeah, right, exactly. Now, why is manual not like going like this?
Right.
I mean, where you're not holding anything. But I thought that was a cool sequence. And our Andorian friend apparently being so important, I thought was interesting. To the extent that, look, Osira was just going to lay waste to an entire planet because the Federation wouldn't turn him over. What did you think when he wouldn't initially, at least when he wouldn't tell Saru why he was so valuable? Did you start to have? Go ahead.
No, okay, so I understand Rin's important, right? Because he would have died any other way. They brought him back, nursed him to health. They are in his interest, but nobody trusts the Federation in this time. He's all like, "Let me go." And Saru's like, "Leave, but you will die if you leave." He's like, "Oh, okay, I'll stay." I mean, come on, man. What does Discovery have to do? Let's peace people know they care. What, Christian? Tell me.
Yeah. And by the way, Craig has a good point. I like that Tilly demanded respect for Saru towards Rin, aka the blue guy. And he kind of barged in there. "Let me out." It's like, "All right, you can go."
Yeah.
But you're gonna die.
Hi, fam.
Yeah. And I like that Detmer was able to deduce the fact that he had clearly stood up to her. and it cost him his antennae. I don't know. It was two of them. So I think antennae. Yeah. Anyway, these things.
Right.
His ACDC devil horns. He
Yeah,
doesn't have them
Ant-Man
anymore.
symbol, right?
Yeah. Right. Exactly. And then just the truly fascinating revelation, the information that he shares with Tilly, which is a little bit of a burden. He's like, I'm the only one who knows. And now, so do you.
Right.
Like, dude, what? Don't give that to Tilly. You know, she's practically broken out into hives as soon as she wakes up in the morning. You know,
that was ever the writer's choice. Like, look, you guys are married in real life. Let's give you the burden scene so you guys can work together. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that it's interesting, though, the idea that they're almost out of dilithium. And boy, if only they knew, if only Osiris knew just how much dilithium the Discovery showed up in the future with. You know, I mean, that could make a big difference. But I think it. Yeah, and I mean, then again, it also. I mean, we knew as soon as they set up this future where the burn happened and there isn't enough dilithium, just the value of the spore drive as well. So we're really starting to kind of see they're doing a good job kind of building, you know, giving us some blocks for what I'm sure will be, you know, the ultimate showdown towards the end of the season.
Let me ask you a question, Christian, real quick before you go on. I know this time last season there was the Red Angel saga, and I was on the fence leaning towards being interested, and you were interested, but you felt that the storytelling was being stretched a bit. Is it a similar problem in your opinion this season with this dilithium case, or are you still on board? Like, give me more.
I'm still on board. And, you know, earlier in the chat, Michael B. actually said that he felt that the problem was that, I can't find it, but I know what he said was that he thought that we were going to really get to the burn. So this sort of felt like filler. And, you know, look, in this episode, we do get to the point where we have a better understanding as to where it was and you know, what to do. But you're right. The fact that they're not immediately dealing with it, I think that is Admiral Vance's point. Like, he doesn't have the luxury to pursue leads about something that happened 200 years ago, no matter how significant it is. So I think that just the fact that this came up in between, it makes sense. I do think if they try to save it until I don't know, the second to last episode, because so we're on episode 8 and there are 13, so we have 5 more. I hope it either next week or the week after is when we're really, you know, hitting that issue and like trying to deal with who caused it. I would like to know who or what caused it, you know, and I don't want to spin my wheels too much longer. I was okay that it wasn't the focus of this episode because we at least got some more pieces, you know, which I thought was kind of a cool revelation, you know, the piece of music, and we got to really zoom in on Saru's eyes and his ears, which I thought was cool. A little creepy, but it was cool. And it was that same piece of music that had showed up a couple times, so that's addressing that ongoing mystery. But then also this idea that there's a Federation distress signal from the middle of that nebula. You know, so it's like, okay, if you don't address that next week, you're going to need a really good reason why, because that seems like something that you would be immediately dispatched to, you know. And what do you think, Flobo, in terms of how it's playing out and the bits of information we got this week?
Well, if it's a Walking Dead, I'll stop and have like a prequel episode just to piss you off. No, I'm actually on board. I would say even more this season than I was last season with the Red Angel saga, because, you know, the burn not just only affects Discovery now, it's really changed the course of the world around them. You're right, we can't stretch forever, but because it's something that large, I would much rather have a burn focused episode wholesale, like almost in this like episode in structure, we have the A story and a bunch of tendrils, rather than like stuffing it in a B plot or a C plot. So to your point, next week it has to be a burn episode. It has to be. Or if it's not going to be a burn episode wholesale, we're going to know more about Georgiou, because she is going on something, of course, to being dead, and I don't really know what's going on there. So one of those things have to be addressed next week, for sure.
Yeah, judging from the preview, I think it'll be the latter. It'll be a Georgiou episode, but I hope they also make some headway with the burn. And yeah, we'll talk about her in a moment. In terms of the music, I had this thought too, Craig. I thought the music was going to make Saru go berserk. Just the way that, like, you know, they zoomed in on his eyes. I'm like, oh my God, it's going to trigger him, you know? So, yeah. But I thought that, you know, that was that sequence where they isolate the sound and the music, the sound of music. Thank you. I thought that was some nice stuff for Adira, who has really taken to Stamets. And interesting that even in the 31st century, you can still have the issue of whether or not you use the correct pronouns. I thought it was an interesting exchange with Stamets. I thought being somebody that she's comfortable saying, look, I never really thought of myself as a she or a her, which I think judging from both her, both that character, both Adira and Gray. See, I made the same mistake right away. But as you look at both of those characters, there is clearly, you don't really look. There's not defined gender like the way we have seen it so many times. I thought that it was, it was very deliberate, I think, in the casting of the two actors of both Adira and Gray, and I think that Stamets, yes, obviously you would assume that on the Discovery there are probably other gay characters, maybe even other gay characters in a relationship, but his significance in terms of Star Trek being in an open gay relationship, in terms of being the first for us as viewers, I think that it was a nice moment that the two of them are getting closer, and that Adira feels that they can confide in Stamets. What did you think about that interaction?
Yeah, just to get into that, I really like the fact that you got Stamets and Culber now acting as both sides of the brain, right? They're both intelligent, they're both stars of what they do, but Culber has more of the compassionate side, because you see Stamets even confide to Culber after the fact and go, whoa, what's going on? But I will say, the moment when Adira first had objections, I thought she was upset that Stamets was speaking for them.
That's actually what I thought it was too, and I thought that was a nice surprise. Yeah. That because Stamets did say, like, yeah, she won't mind doing it. Yeah, she's really fast. Whereas it's like, yes, you're a ranking officer, but that still, maybe she thinks, yeah, dude, I'm going to need a day and a half, and he said that she can do it super fast. Right. So yeah, I thought, I had the same thought. I thought that that's why she hesitated. But I thought, and I think that, we're dealing with what it's like to be a Trill for a human in a way that, look, we haven't had a lot of characters. Obviously, we had Dax on DS9, but because she was she was that species, she didn't have these issues. You know what I mean? In terms of trying to get all the voices to, basically to stop, and she doesn't know who she's going to feel more like on a given day. So I think that we're getting insight that we haven't for, which really is, it's a fascinating concept. Whoever came up with the Trill, where they are this sort of, they build the personalities through generations, Yeah. So I thought that this was a great, I don't know. I thought it was some great character work with Adira, who, could have been a fairly minor character, but I think has become very interesting and an integral part of the Discovery,
I wonder, I agree with you 100%. I think it was a cool way to have that discussion in the context of Star Trek, because the Trill have so many different individual souls, I guess, personalities, memories into each other. But I wonder now if Gray felt the same way when they had Trill, or was it just because he was a boyfriend to Adira before receiving the Trill? Would that supersede? So like that kind of opened like a small like question mark for me, but it's so minor. It's like, bro, just watch the show.
Yeah, and look, I think it's interesting that right now Adira is not hearing Gray, but there's a variety of reasons for that. But one could be that Gray feels like, you know what, you're building a bond with another person. You have somebody that's a confidant. I can kind of just be in the background with the other past hosts, and I don't know. I mean, I think there could be a variety of reasons for that, but that's the way I took it. But I thought that storyline has taken on some more interest than I think I ever thought. And look, I know I said in our premiere when we saw Adira in the commercial, I was like, great, now we've got like a Tilly or Tilly. But I do love Tilly, so it's almost like that's okay.
Right.
But in the chat, they're referencing the fact that in the J.J. Abrams movies, isn't Sulu gay?
Yes.
It is touched on because you see in the third film, Star Trek Beyond, you see him with a husband and their daughter. So yeah, I mean that's true, but that character of Sulu wasn't established that way, obviously in the '60s, but. George Takei has done more than enough to establish himself in the real world. So, even if you've ever heard of one appearance he made on Howard Stern, that's all you really need to know.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I do find Stamets is very significant still in the fact that he is he's clearly in a defined gay relationship with another member of our cast, but also the crew of the show. The crew of the ship, as it were. So yeah, I thought that. And then Michael has maybe because Adira is human, the symbiote doesn't want to overwhelm them because they're human. Yeah, I think that's a valid point, and I think that they're all aware that it's like humans aren't really built for this, and I wonder if that's a problem that we'll see at some point.
Yeah.
There's a lot that can be done there. Let's talk about Philippa, who, in true Philippa fashion. Even when she has, some real problems that she very clearly is experiencing right now. When in that moment when she's having sort of the flashback, the nightmarish flashback, she's like, I was having an excellent dream. Your head was mounted on my wall. It's like, man, Philippa, could you just stop being Philippa for a second?
I got my slam poetry. Who'd I read it
to? Yeah. How do you think? Philippa is handling all of these clear problems that have gotten worse the longer they've been in the future? That she's having a lot more trouble dealing with.
Oh man, that was to me was a big revelation. Besides the obvious thing with the burn, because I thought it was all psychological. I thought it was just her just adjusting, or her trying to understand her memories or past or whatever. But as he ever sat with David Cronenberg, her life has never been the same. And when she got scanned and when she walked away from, she's saying that in no uncertain terms she's dying, which puts a whole new wrinkle on what that means, what they stand for, being from another universe, and being transferred to another universe and being shot to the future. Is that more than the human body can take, or is something more at play? I want answers, Christian. Answers!
I know, especially because it relates to the mirror universe, which has always been fascinating. We've referenced that there was an annual mirror universe episode in DS9 almost every season. So it is fun to deal with. I did like that Giorgio had those moments where she kind of blurred or got pixelated or whatever, because I think that really reinforces this idea that she is in a dimension she doesn't belong in. She's in a timeline she doesn't belong in, and so far into that. And David Cronenberg's character, who will just always be David Cronenberg, and we will see him next week, I believe. So that'll be exciting. He referenced the fact that there hasn't been a crossover into the mirror universe in about 500 years, and the sense is that it's further away than it's ever been before. So I think all of those things are at play, and it could be as simple as they develop some kind of stabilizer, but Giorgio isn't going to ask for it.
Make her an android like Picard. Just make her a new android version of Giorgio. Call the day. Rafi!
JL, which she would call her PG. Hey, PG. PG. But clearly she's clearly PG-13. But anyway,
yeah, right.
Awful. So I'm with you. I want to know. And by the way, Culber said we need to talk, and we didn't learn about that conversation. So I'm like, where's the deleted scene on that? I want to know what they talked about. I'm sure they'll tell us next week.
She did go, though. That was a big step for her. She did go. I thought she'd be like, no, slice them, smack them around.
Right. Yeah. You came back to life only for me to kill you now. So. Right. But and they brought in reinforcements to, really make sure that she listened to what's happening. And as tough as she is, she knows that something is very wrong. What do you think it is that she's seeing, this flashback? Who do you think is dead in front of her? What do you think it is that she's reliving that's so problematic?
I try to rack my brain, but I can't. Is it young like stuff that's going on? Is it like the memories of classic or Giorgio Prime, and they're like folding all over themselves because she's been in this universe for too long? I can't make sense of it.
Yeah, I mean, could she have absorbed the memories of, we know that Giorgio Prime, our Giorgio, was killed and eaten by Klingons. So that could be part of it. I also wonder, is that a flashback to when she had to kill Burnham? I mean, I think that it was not the last time they were in the mirror universe. I think we thought that this Giorgio could have still had like her. I think that Mirror Burnham was not necessarily dead, just no one had seen her in a while, but I could be wrong. That's the way I remember it. Let me know in the chat if I'm wrong. But yeah, William's kind of wondering the same thing. Does it relate to Mirror Burnham? That's what I think, but we'll have to see. And just to go back to an earlier topic, William Walton asks, could the Dax symbiote still be alive? I mean, it would just be another, 700-800 years. And it stands to reason that would continue. So that could be a cool character to see, a future Dax, and
how long does the Trill live? That's interesting.
I don't know if that's been established. It sounds like a joke, but it's a good question. How long does a Trill live? Let me tell you. So they secret words and win $100. But this Ross JD, it'll turn out that Voyager is the key to everything.
Christian would love that. He would love if Voyager was the key.
But I'd be happy to see. I'd be happy to see Captain Janeway. I'd always feel fine.
She's on Prodigy right now. She's on Star Trek Prodigy.
See, I didn't even know
the animated series. Yeah.
Star Trek Prodigy is an animated series.
It's the Nickelodeon ones for tweens, where the kids like find an old ship and go to the galaxy.
Is that currently airing? I didn't.
I think it's coming out soon. If it's not out right now. Yeah.
All right, good. I was just like, I thought I was a little bit more in the know than that, but clearly not. So yeah, I think that I don't know. Look, I understand the feeling that this is a filler episode in the sense that it didn't deal with the burn, but we got more about the Emerald Chain, and I'm wondering what you think, Flobo, that Saru tried to creatively avoid going to war with the Emerald Chain, but I think that is not what he accomplished, and I think that that's probably short term. The most significant thing from this episode is that they're going to go after the Federation now.
Oh yeah, satellite wars. That's like even worse of a war crime atrocity. But he had very direct orders of what to do, what not to do. And I think I think the writers or the storyteller are trying to process what does an earnest, compassionate captain do to win the day. He won't outmaneuver his enemies like Picard was. He wouldn't be cavalier as Pike or Kirk. This is Saru relying on his crew to come up with creative solutions. But I understand the reason of saying this is a filler episode, but like I kind of enjoy the time it took to have Saru struggle to say things like manifest or execute with his crew. Just to get more color to what's going on. So I don't know. I'm on board. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I think that it's that Saru has forced their hand a little bit. I do think that the Admiral is going to understand the circumstances, but probably not even probably. I think he's not going to be happy with the end result, and the fact that you tried to skirt around it by not having a Federation vessel fire on the Emerald Chain vessel, I don't think is going to make that much of a difference. Okay, and Michael makes the point that Mirror Michael is dead in the Mirror Universe, and I think, Tilly, but there she's known as Killy, killed her. That could very well.
No, I think Philippa killed Mirror Burnham, right?
Yeah, see, that's why I think that's what the flashback is.
Yeah.
And William, what if Cisco reappears and is the key to everything? That'd be better than if it was Voyager.
A man called Hawk in space. And
people are throwing Mrs. Columbo references in there. That was Kate Mulgrew as well.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's we're getting a lot of Wikipedia-able information here. Craig thinks, I think the Admiral is going to be a puppet master, pulling all the strings to his nefarious plot to rule the galaxy. Could be, but I feel like we've already had that reveal with Lorca, where he seems to be the understanding authority figure. If it's well written, that'll be fine. But I don't know that we're going there. You know what I mean? But we'll see.
I hope not. It's definitely a possibility because he hasn't won me over quite yet. But I hope not.
Yeah, but I mean, he's not. He's shown that he's not quite the hard ass he had to be in the first episode. So we'll have to see from there. I see. Michael B. I call Philippa Philly, so I thought you were talking about Tilly, and then there, and I got confused. I was just like, why would anybody want to eat a Tilly cheesesteak? I was just very confused. So yes, Philippa killed her. Okay, so we're all on the same page that we believe the simple fact that Philippa killed her, and that I do think that that's something that she's reliving because it was probably a painful moment for her in her timeline, even though she, of course, played it off otherwise. In any case, I think we've exhausted episodes 7 and 8. Flobo, I did almost call you Philippa for some reason.
Hey man, that's cool.
Yeah. It's because I know you're from another dimension.
And I have a slam book somewhere.
If Flobo, if people want to keep in touch with you, and also if they want to find Commander's Log, where do they go?
They can go all over the planet once we manifest.
You know what? I'm glad you referenced that. Let's get the plug in, and then we'll talk about that at the end. Yeah.
NewAmsterdam.com, KNEWAmsterdam.com. Learn more about the shows that I'm on. We're talking Draped in Gold, Pro Wrestling, Commander's Log, Star Trek, and my late night talk show, What's Up Flobo After Hours. So yeah.
Yes, because as anyone knows who's seen Flobo and I in a show together, Flobo, it does nothing if not new content every week. Craig Robinson out there. Everybody knows about the new content, not just once a month. No, new content every week. And we appreciate that. And obviously, if you want to find me, you can do that here at Christian DMZ on Twitter and Instagram. But here, the Blackcast YouTube channel. Some of you I know are watching on Facebook, and if anybody's watching on Twitch, just go ahead and give a shout out. But I know most people don't watch on Twitch. But I could put it in 3 places, so I might as well. Yeah, well, it's there. So you can find there. So yeah, let's end on that final thing. I love Saru trying to basically get his catchphrase, and he was just like, wasn't hit it what Captain Pike said, and Tilly just is saying to him like, well, what if you went hit it? And it's like, well, no, that's a terrible idea.
Right.
But I don't know. I feel like they have one that they're just waiting for the right moment, but execute wasn't it, was it?
No, I think on in the beginning I was like, that could actually work. And then he said it, and then poor Bryce was like, come on, player. That ain't it, cuz. So I don't know.
Yeah, I know. I thought that the way that they all kind of looked at him, and I know it's a work in progress. I did like that it was important enough that they didn't want to talk about it in front of people. It's like, and so it was like, and the ongoing matter, and Tilly's like looking around, and you're like, what are they talking about? I'm like, oh, okay, he's trying to develop a catchphrase. Well, we'll try and come up with one for next week for Saru and also for us. And Flobo, we'll definitely have to have you back before the end of the season, and I will invite myself over to Commander's Log at some point. And you said that's Thursdays at what time Pacific?
6 p.m. Pacific, 9 p.m. Eastern.
Yeah. Oh, Michael's got it. And do it. There you go. That's what it is.
So bossy, man.
And if you want to, and if you want to see us next week, do it. It was like I clicked on the wrong one. Anyway, thanks again, Flobo. Thanks to everybody. We will see you next week, and of course, live long